There's a lie you were taught from a young age, and you didn't even realize how much it weakened you. They said being nice would take you far, that pleasing others, avoiding conflict, always being understanding, would make you respected. But look around. Those who are truly respected rarely play that game, and that's where the discomfort begins. Because deep down, you've already felt this. You've already realized that the more you try to be accepted, the more you are ignored. The more you give in, the more people move on. And the more you try to keep everything peaceful, the less control you have over your own life. Now let me ask you an uncomfortable question. What if the problem isn't the world, but the way you've been conditioned to position yourself within it? What if this goodness you carry isn't a virtue, but an unconscious survival strategy? A way to avoid rejection, conflict, abandonment. Machiavelli didn't write about good or bad people. He wrote about how the game really works. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals. And reality doesn't reward those who try to be accepted at any cost. It rewards those who understand the invisible rules of human relationships. In this video, you'll realize that the real problem isn't being good. It's being predictable, manipulable, and emotionally dependent on the approval of others. And more importantly, you'll understand how to reverse that without becoming cold or empty, but rather someone strategic, stable, and impossible to ignore. Because, in the end, it's not about changing who you are. It's about stopping acting in a way that's keeping you small. If something inside you awakened while listening, don't ignore that feeling. This channel isn't about videos. It's about memories. Remember who you were before the fear, before the exhaustion, before the silence. Each new video here is a different reflection of your own soul. An invitation to understand what the world never taught you. The power you seek outside has always been within you. If you feel that this journey speaks to what lives silently within you, sign up now. Not to follow yet another creator, but to reconnect with something the world tried to make you forget. Because here, every word was made to heal, each reflection to awaken, and each video serves as a reminder you are not alone on the path back to yourself. Click on subscribe and turn the algorithm into a daily reminder of who you really are. He realized over time that the biggest mistake most people make wasn't a lack of intelligence, it was an obsession with comfort. There's a silent search for environments where everything is predictable, where no one confronts, where no tension arises. But here's the point few dare to admit: whoever runs from tension relinquishes control. Machiavelli already suggested indirectly that reality doesn't bend to ideals, it responds to the strength of those who know how to withstand pressure. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals. When someone enters a difficult conversation and needs everything to be light, they've already lost, because the other side senses it, senses the hesitation, senses the fear of conflict. And at that moment, even unconsciously, the hierarchy changes. Whoever endures the discomfort begins to command the environment, not because they shout louder, but because they don't back down. And that changes everything. Now, consider a practical situation. A tense meeting, for example. Someone criticizes his work in front of others. Most people try to defend themselves quickly, lighten the mood, give a nervous laugh. Anything to escape the tension. But not him. He maintains silence for a few seconds. He looks them in the eye. He responds calmly, without rushing. This small delay completely changes the game. Because while others react, he chooses. And that is power. Calculated use of force. It's not about being aggressive. It's about not being controlled by the need for comfort. In fact, a simple exercise he started applying was this. Every time he feels social discomfort, he doesn't run away immediately. He stays. He observes. He endures 10 seconds longer than usual. It seems small, but this begins to train something much deeper, inner stability. And stability is what sustains authority. And here's a disturbing truth. The end justifies the means when the means are your own emotional control. Because ultimately, whoever controls their own reaction controls the rhythm of the interaction. Virtue and fortune go hand in hand here. Luck favors those prepared to bear the weight of the moment, and he begins to realize that the less he needs things to be comfortable, the more people start to adjust to him. It's almost invisible, but it's real. And then an interesting twist emerges, because when you stop running from discomfort, you also begin to notice how much you depend on something even more dangerous, the approval of others. And this opens up another layer that few are ready to face. He began to notice a pattern that had previously gone unnoticed. Almost everything people do revolves around being accepted quickly. A gentler comment here, a forced laugh there, an opinion molded just to avoid friction. It seems harmless, but it isn't. Because every time someone needs immediate approval, that person surrenders a piece of their own power. And this is subtle. No one notices it at the time, but those who observe carefully easily see who is trying to please. And those who try too hard to please become predictable. Machiavelli spoke of the appearance of virtue, but he also warned between the lines that this appearance needs to be strategic, not desperate. There is a brutal difference between appearing virtuous and begging for acceptance. When he understood this, something changed. He stopped adjusting every word to be well received. And curiously, that's exactly when he began to be more respected. Imagine a common situation. Someone says something you disagree with, but you feel the urge to agree just to avoid creating tension. He used to do this automatically. Today, he does things differently. He doesn't confront explosively, but he also doesn't back down. He simply says, "I don't see it that way," without over-justifying, without apologizing for thinking differently. And this creates an almost uncomfortable effect on the other person, because it breaks the expected pattern. Better to be feared than loved, but above all, avoid being hated. In other words, he doesn't seek gratuitous conflict, but he also doesn't submit for approval. This balance is rare, and that's why it stands out. A practical exercise he adopted was simple. In everyday conversations, he began to identify how many times he was about to agree without actually agreeing. Just noticing this already starts to change. And here comes the most interesting part. Respect is rarely instantaneous. In fact, it often comes late, because in the beginning, when you stop trying to please everyone, some people find it strange. Some even distance themselves. And this is where most people back down. But he doesn't. Because he understands that decisions based on real human nature show that people value more what they can't easily mold. Your own loyal armies aren't formed by pleasing everyone. They're formed by being consistent. Constant adaptability doesn't mean changing to please. It means knowing when to hold your ground. And the more he maintains this stance, the more he notices something curious. People start to better consider what they say around him. But this isn't even the deepest level. Because even without seeking approval, there's still something that can betray you in seconds: the impulsive reaction. He understood something that completely changes the dynamics of any interaction. Those who react too quickly reveal more than they should. Immediate reaction gives away your triggers, your insecurities, your weaknesses, everything on a silver platter. And the problem isn't just reacting, it's reacting without realizing you're being observed. Because in the silent game of relationships, every micro-expression, every impulsive response adjusts the perception of power. Machiavelli, observing real human nature, made it clear that control isn't about brute force, but about timing. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals. And in practice, this means something simple but difficult: learning to delay. Not to run away, not to explode, just pause. This small interval changes everything. Because while the other person acts automatically, he begins to act with intention. Imagine a situation where someone tries to provoke you. An ironic comment, a veiled criticism, an attempt to destabilize you. Most people respond immediately, either defending themselves or attacking back. Not him. He listens and remains silent for a few seconds. This silence creates a powerful discomfort because the other person doesn't know what's coming. And in that space, the pressure shifts. Calculated use of force. Sometimes he responds with a simple question. Why do you think that? And that's it. He didn't engage in the emotional game. He changed the game. A practical exercise he's started applying is almost mechanical. Whenever he feels an emotional reaction rising, he mentally counts to 3 before speaking. It seems basic, but this micro delay creates a layer of control that most people never develop. And that's exactly what separates those who react from those who lead. And here's the detail that few realize. Delay isn't weakness, it's strategy. The end justifies the means when the means is to maintain your position intact. Virtù and fortuna meet at this point. Whoever masters the timing of the response masters the rhythm of the interaction. And over time, something begins to happen. People become more cautious around him because they realize he's unpredictable, and predictability is what allows manipulation. Avoiding being hated, but also not being easily deciphered. But this control opens up a new risk, because by not reacting impulsively, he begins to realize something else. Not all kindness is virtue. Some are disguised weakness, and this completely changes how he positions himself in relationships. It took him a while to realize it, but when he did, he couldn't unsee it. Not all kindness is virtue. Often it's fear. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of losing ground. And this kind of kindness, the kind that's distributed indiscriminately, doesn't build respect. It destroys authority, because deep down, people sense when something is given too freely. Machiavelli already pointed out that the appearance of virtue needs to be controlled, not wasted. When everything about you is accessible, predictable, and available, you cease to be valued. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals. The reality is simple. That which requires effort is more respected. And when he began to understand this, something changed. He stopped saying yes automatically. He stopped being available all the time. And initially, this caused strangeness, because people were used to the version of him that never said no. Now consider a common situation. Someone asks you for a favor that clearly isn't a priority for you. Before, he would accept without thinking, just to maintain the image of a good guy. Today, he responds differently. I can't right now. No long justifications, no embedded guilt, and that changes the game. Because suddenly, access to him is no longer automatic. Better to be feared than loved. But above all, avoid being seen as someone who can be used. Kindness, when selective, gains weight. Calculated use of force. A practical exercise he started applying was creating a simple filter. Is this aligned with what I want, or am I doing it just to please? If the answer is to please, he backs down. Does it seem cold? Maybe. But that's what creates real respect, because those who distribute attention indiscriminately teach others not to value it. And here comes the most subtle twist. When support needs to be earned, people's behavior changes. They start investing more, thinking more carefully before asking, and valuing what they receive more. Loyal armies aren't built with infinite availability. They're built with clear criteria. Decisions based on real human nature show that scarcity generates value. And he begins to realize something almost disconcerting. The less he tries to be seen as nice, the more people begin to respect his presence. Virtù and Fortuna meet again here. But this change brings an interesting side effect. When you stop closing everything right away, solving everything immediately, you begin to discover the power of something that most people completely ignore: the weight of not finishing. He realized there's a silent obsession in people, the need to close everything, to resolve everything, to have the last word, to give a final answer that ends the conversation clearly. It seems like maturity, but often it's disguised anxiety. Because those who need to conclude everything immediately, in reality, can't stand leaving loose ends. And it's precisely in these loose ends that one of the greatest psychological powers resides. Machiavelli understood this well when working with unpredictability as a tool. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals. In practice, this means that not every conversation needs to be finished the moment it happens. When he started applying this, he noticed something curious. The less he felt the need to conclude, the more presence he created, even when he wasn't there. Imagine a conversation where someone makes a provocative statement or raises an important point. Most people respond, argue, explain, try to close the subject. He doesn't. In some cases, he simply leaves the sentence hanging. He changes the subject naturally, or even ends the interaction without concluding. This creates an immediate psychological effect. The other person continues thinking, continues processing, continues trying to understand. A calculated use of force, because by not delivering closure, he maintains control of the other person's mental space. A practical example he started using was simple: in messages, avoiding responding to everything completely and immediately. Sometimes he responds partially or intentionally delays, not as a childish game, but as a conscious strategy. And this completely changes the dynamic, because the other side starts investing more energy in the interaction. And here's a truth that bothers many people: the end justifies the means when the means is to maintain psychological relevance. Virtù and Fortuna again, knowing when to speak and especially when not to conclude, avoiding being hated, but also avoiding being forgotten. Because deep down, those who resolve everything too quickly disappear too quickly. And he begins to realize that conversations left open create more impact than those that are perfectly concluded. But this reveals something even deeper. Because when you start observing these dynamics, you realize that every interaction, however small, carries an invisible element that few consciously analyze: an exchange of power. He began to see something that had previously seemed invisible. No interaction is neutral. Every conversation, every glance, every exchange, however small, subtly adjusts the hierarchy between people. And the most curious thing is that this happens without anyone consciously realizing it. Machiavelli deeply understood this dynamic because his ideas were always based on decisions guided by real human nature, politics guided by reality, not by ideals. When he began to observe this, he stopped seeing conversations as simple exchanges of words and began to see patterns. Who talks more? Who adapts more? Who tries harder to please? Who invests more energy? These questions began to completely change how he positioned himself, because ultimately, whoever invests more is usually at a disadvantage. Imagine a typical conversation. One person strives to keep the dialogue going, starts a conversation, responds quickly, tries to engage. The other responds more cautiously, with pauses, without urgency. Without realizing it, the balance has already tipped. Calculated use of force. He began to observe this in real time. If he realizes he's investing too much energy, he adjusts. He reduces the intensity, he responds less, he gives more space, and this isn't coldness, it's recalibration. A practical exercise he started applying is almost mathematical. After an interaction, he asks himself, who adapted better here? If the answer is him, something is out of balance, and that's where constant adaptability comes in, not to please, but to reposition. Your own loyal armies aren't built by chasing after others. They're built by being a stable reference point that others orbit. And here's the most uncomfortable part. Most people don't realize when they're giving up power because they confuse effort with value. The end justifies the means when the means is maintaining your position without unnecessarily wearing yourself out. Virtù and Fortuna meet again, knowing when to advance and when to retreat. Better to be feared than loved, but above all, avoid being ignored or treated as an option. And the more he observes these exchanges, the more he understands that power isn't in what is said, but in what is demonstrated. But all of this still depends on a factor that ties all these strategies together: how you are perceived over time. Because it's no use acting strategically if your image communicates the opposite. And that's exactly where the last point comes in. The most silent, but perhaps the most decisive. He understood, perhaps too late, that reputation isn't what you say about yourself. It's the standard people perceive when you're not trying to convince anyone. And the problem is, if you don't intentionally build it, someone else will build it for you. And most of the time, it won't be in your favor. Machiavelli spoke about the appearance of virtue, but few understand the depth of it. It's not about seeming like something, it's about repeating behaviors until that becomes your perceived identity. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals. Reality is simple. People don't analyze speeches, they observe consistency. If today you position yourself one way and tomorrow another, your image fragments. And when the image is unstable, respect evaporates. It was at this point that he began to treat each small decision as part of something bigger. Now think about everyday life, the way he responds to messages, the time he takes, what he accepts, what he refuses, how he reacts under pressure. All of this communicates something. Even when he's not trying to communicate, calculated use of force. He started acting as if he were always being watched, not out of paranoia, but strategically. A practical example, he defined some simple and non-negotiable principles. He doesn't respond immediately when he's busy. He doesn't accept commitments that don't make sense. He doesn't change his mind just to avoid discomfort. And he maintains this always, with anyone. Your own loyal armies are built on predictable character, not momentary intensity. And over time, something starts to happen. People stop testing because they already know what to expect. And this, in itself, creates a kind of invisible shield. And here's the most important point of all. Reputation isn't built on grand moments, but on small, repeated, almost imperceptible ones. The end justifies the means when the means are absolute consistency. Virtù and Fortuna walk hand in hand again, because luck in this context is being recognized exactly as you position yourself. Better to be feared than loved, but above all, avoid being seen as unstable. Decisions based on real human nature show that people trust patterns more than promises, and when he realizes this, he understands that it's no longer about isolated techniques, but a way of existing, a way of moving in the world. And that changes everything. Now let me ask you honestly, how many times have you diminished yourself just to maintain a comfortable environment? How many times have you agreed when you wanted to disagree, answered quickly when you should have waited, said yes when it was clearly no? Most people live like this, on autopilot, trying to avoid any tension, as if discomfort were something to be eliminated. But have you ever realized that this is exactly what keeps you in the same place? Because deep down, those who can't handle pressure can't maintain their position, and without a position, there is no respect. The truth is simple, but hard to swallow. No one will treat you with more value than you demonstrate for yourself. It doesn't matter what you say. What matters is what you tolerate. What matters is what you accept. What matters is what you let pass. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals. And the reality is that respect isn't given, it's perceived, and perception is built in micro-decisions every day. So I want you to think, where exactly are you still betraying yourself to be accepted? Where are you reacting instead of choosing? Where are you being nice, but in practice only being ignored? Now the point isn't to understand this, it's to apply it. Start small. Hold back an answer. Say no without over-explaining. Endure a little more silence than usual. Observe who invests more in interactions with you. And most importantly, start acting like someone who doesn't need to prove anything all the time. Because that's how you begin to change how the world responds to you. Virtù and fortuna don't appear by chance. They follow those who consistently position themselves. And now I want to hear from you. Which of these points resonated with you the most? Which one did you realize you're making a mistake in today? Comment below, because sometimes the first step to change is having the courage to admit where you're sabotaging yourself. And if this type of content made you see something you never noticed before, then subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because here you won't learn what's comfortable, you'll learn what works.